Friends of celebrities before they were famous, how did fame change them? Don't forget to subscribe for daily Reddit videos. I was friends with Kylie Jenner from 4th to about 8th grade. We stopped talking because I left to go to another school, and I think she went to go get homeschooled 9th or 10th grade. Honestly, nicest person I've ever met. I was a chubby weird girl, and didn't have many friends when I started at the new school. There's even a group picture of us my first year all sitting on a hill, and out of everyone I was the only one sitting alone. On that trip, my mom came as a chaperone. She was walking with Kylie while I was someplace else, and told my mom I like movement. I wish everyone wasn't so mean to her. She is really nice. She loves animals, and so do Elle. She then processed to meet up with me and talk about how cute this turkey was. She really helped me those years. She was one of the only people who didn't bully me. We weren't best friends, but when we did hang out, we had fun. I'm not sure how she's changed now, but I really hope she hasn't. I've never really followed her stuff, but she seems like she is happy and successful. I hope she remains that way. Also, I'm currently going to school for zoology. A good buddy of mine went to Brit school in London. Anyway, he invited me to this celebratory event at a bar because one of his female classmates had just got a record deal. I went, met her and thought, damn, she must have a good voice because her image. She was very overweight, won't work in the current climate. Understand, I didn't care about her weight, but this was a time of perfect body and bone structure pop stars. Anyway, this girl was very sweet and a good laugh. That girl was in Adele. I had a friend who's an elected official for the federal government. I see him regularly on the television or in the news. He doesn't return my calls or texts, but when he needs something he will send me 14 messages and leave me voicemails until I call him back. Edit. I'm sorry for being brief, but I don't want to point fingers and name names. We used to be close. We used to hang out and were drinking buddies, etc, etc. Even helped him get elected. Then he ghosted me and now he just calls me when needs something. We haven't connected in 3 to 4 years now. Not me, but I know someone who knows Avril Lavigne. To the point where they'd hang out whenever she was touring and came through town. This was obviously in the mid-2000s when she was more relevant. Said she always wanted to just have time to be a normal person with a normal life and seemed chill enough. I was friends and roommates with Joey Tribbiani before he was cast for Days of Our Lives. Didn't change him much at first. He still hung out with me and our other friend, Ross, and a few friends who lived across the hall. But one day, he decided to move out to an apartment of his own. I said I was fine with it, but I wasn't. Anyway, it turned out he was fired from the show for a magazine scandal, and fortunately things returned to normal. We're still friends to this day. Hoppa. My cousin was in an indie rock band that sort of made it. They weren't huge, but they had a record label, made the indie charts a few times and toured quite a bit. He definitely became a local celebrity, but it didn't really change him as far as I could tell. He stayed a genuinely nice, down-to-earth guy. His wife, however, fucking hell. She was always a bit arrogant, but she became this massively controlling uppity bitch walking around like her shit doesn't stink too. In public she acted very fake, like she was doing everyone a favor by letting them be in her presence. In front of family she was a condescending shitgibbon who thought she was better than everyone. A lot of my family started to distance themselves, and I know their marriage almost ended when she slapped him because he hugged and took a selfie with a female fan in the local supermarket. The band went on hiatus about 7 to 8 years ago and she still goes around acting like a peacock with a stick up its ass. Guy from high school became a tech guy, and apparently is the shit. Gets flown around the world to tell companies what they should do and how to do it sort of shtick. He wasn't well liked because he was a bit of a condescending dork, but that was mainly his defensive measure. He was really quite empathetic, just not sociable. After chatting with him on FB years ago, he's still the same guy. Just makes these weird programming jokes now that seem sort of insulting to companies he doesn't like. Mickey Madden and I went to college together. He's the bassist for Maroon 5. I lost his number when my cell phone literally caught fire in my pocket. OT 616. You served me well. He lost my number when he became wildly successful and famous. Seriously though, he worked so damn hard for that success. It's great to see it paying off for him. Be well, my dude. I just hope I get to see you again. Give you a big hug, and tell you congratulations. I have a childhood friend who became an actress. She's not hugely well known. She's been in a lot of kids shows, actually, but has played in smaller roles on some more well-known programs. She used to be totally normal. She's always been a nice person, but I can't stand her right now because her whole persona has changed. Everything is so inspiring. Everything is an inspiration and magi call. Instagram of me in Brazil so I ends pie ring. Instagram of me in Japan so I ends pie ring. Picture of me looking out into the distance so an SP ring. I'm frolicking in the fields while wearing ridiculously expensive beads around my neck and wrists and a peasant skirt that costs more than your rent so an SP ring. Another Instagram of me being spiritual and letting you know that you are your own light or some crap such a inspiration. And then you see her idiot fans on social media encouraging this. You're so beautiful, you're so inspirational. Praying gesture, girl you remind me of an actual mother nature. I can't even talk to her anymore because she is living in a world of sunshine, ponies and unicorns. She is so unbelievably disconnected from reality at this point, but she can afford to be that way. And she surrounds herself with similar people, rich dingbats who think they're spiritual. So in short, she used to be somewhat normal and fun. Now she's a wannabe hippie who cannot have an adult conversation. Edit. I'd rather not say who she is. We still know each other. My mom was neighbors with DMX and they grew up together. She says he was chill and they would go out to eat but he would always flirt with her. She said even when he was trying to get his career started he was down to earth. They haven't talked for a while now. My friend's best friend, let's call her Laura, is old family friends with the Hemsworths. The boys used to visit them in Phillip Island when they came back to Australia. Apparently they're super sweet and very grounded. When Liam was with Miley Cyrus he used to bring her along too. Laura was really shocked when they broke up and Miley went crazy because she thought they were going to be together forever considering how much they seemed to love one another. Edit. Got confused between Chris and Liam Hemsworth. If YouTube counts, I went to high school with Review Bra. I've never watched much of his channel beyond getting the gist of it. I can say he certainly would dress like that all the time. As well as his way of speaking, he certainly doesn't seem to be playing a character. Was always quiet but seemed okay, didn't ever brag about his channel or anything, seemed to want his online life and personal life very separate. Edit. High school not Josh school. A few years ago, my friend ran in the same social circles as Emma Robertson so they'd show up to the same parties, hang out, etc. According to my friend, Emma Roberts is a huge bitch. She'd show up to parties and expect everyone to be in awe over her and would constantly say I'm Emma Roberts. My aunt is Julia Roberts to justify doing whatever she wanted. She'd be very stuck up to other people and expected the royal treatment. My cousin is an Olympic athlete who received major international endorsement deals and went on to work in television. Super down-to-earth person, kept coming to family reunions in our tiny little town, and stayed really friendly and fun. My dad went to college with Harrison Ford. He was in theater class with him ironically enough. He says that he was a nice guy, but obviously a lot better at it than the rest of them were. Not the same. But the Arctic Monkeys' Alex Turner's dad was my music teacher at school. He did an assembly once and it was about him having a timeshare on a small plane. Can't remember the relevance lol. Showed us the video for Cornerstone before it was released. That was pretty cool. Overall, seemed down to earth but he was definitely cool and had a nice head of hair that was usually swept to the side haha. I saw his picture in a magazine once. Stood behind Alex and Alexa Chung before I knew his son was famous. That was surreal. If YouTube famous comes close enough, I've known Eric and Chad from Iraq Veteran 8888 for 14 years. Met them when they started a band with my dad on drums. We'd have them over in our basement every weekend and at dinner. Don't see them as often anymore now that the channel is absolutely huge. But we're still great friends. Really the only thing that has changed is that all Eric talks about is guns and music as opposed to just music. Hugh Jackman. He was a cool guy before he became famous and is still the same humble, great guy now. Barely at all. Surprisingly, this seems to be the case for most people. I don't see why they're portrayed as bad people. Two good friends who are current NFL starters, of the successful variety with good endorsement contracts, not the couple years and out of the league kind. They've seen so many people squander their money or get taken for friends by supposed friends. They're pretty socially isolated these days. They have work friends, other players and stuff, and some friends from before they hit it big, but they're not really in a mindset where they'll just go out and make friends. They'll be friendly to people but they're not making new friends. I was always curious why in the off-season they'd be down for flying across the country to visit me on any pretext given they have massive mansions, etc. Especially back when my wife and I just had a tiny-ass 970 square foot condo and you had two NFL-sized dudes sleeping in one queen bed in the guest room. Then I realized in the off-season about the only time they leave the house is for a change of scenery when they train, charity work, and filming commercials. So hanging with me a good 8-hour flight from where they play and are the most famous is basically freedom. I met Kimmy Meissner at a GF's friend's party once. I wouldn't have known it was her if my then GF didn't mention it on the ride home. I never met her before she competed in the Olympics, but she's one of the nicest, most down-to-earth people I've ever met. 10/10 would hang out with again. Don't know if you'd consider her a celebrity, but I'm a friend of Lily Reinhart, Betty on Riverdale, and she's still nice. We weren't super close friends, she's more of my sister's friend, but we were friends nonetheless. She doesn't text as much, especially when they're filming, but I mean that's normal considering she's working and has a job now. When she came back during summer, after the first season, our friend group hung out twice, with her present. She tries not to act famous, and didn't mention Riverdale till we brought it up. She just wanted to chill and be normal, and tag along with whatever plans the rest of us made. While hanging out, she seemed like the same nice girl and didn't act different than we knew her, except she seemed a bit more liberal and vocal about it, to be honest, but I guess that's what Canada does to UXD. I went to high school with a girl who ended up on an Australian soap opera called Neighbours. I hear she's on The Bold and the Beautiful now, and I'll see the odd interview or magazine cover she lands. She was always really sweet. She came to a few of my parties and was always pleasant and respectful. I ran into her like a week before she was moving away to star in the show, and she was very excited but still humble about it all. From what I hear, she's still the same. I'm not sure if famous counts, but I went to junior high and was friends with someone who became a moderately famous YouTuber when they got to high school/uni. I still see her take the bus from time to time and see her at church. She's still pretty friendly whenever we greet each other. I can tell she's not the same person I knew when we were still friends, but not in the negative way. If anything, she feels a lot more confident about herself than she ever was. It's kind of nice to see. Again, not sure if YouTubers would count as famous, but I was friends with Marina Joyce before she became well known. She's always been a very optimistic person by nature, so that hasn't changed, but then the whole situation about her mentality and possible drug use broke out and, well, yeah, I have no idea anymore, but she is literally a genuinely friendly and optimistic character. Not friend, but family. Cousin ended up in the NFL briefly, didn't change his outlook on life or his behavior in any way, although it might be because he saw how bad one of his teammates got and didn't want to be like him. My sister is an underground rapper. Used to be pretty cool with Cardi B. Sis says Cardi B used to be very reserved and quiet before reality TV. Generally a nice girl, Cardi got famous after her stint on reality TV. She and my sis had a falling out after Cardi started biting styles, one of which was my sister's. The song Bodak Yellow is directed at my sister after sis approached her about her BS. So, I guess fame made Quiet Belcalis style stealing meanie? Dunno how true it is. I am friends with someone who married a very famous musician. He basically stopped talking or responding to any of us. He had a large community of friends, on social media or in person or phone. He got rid of his private FB fairly soon after they got married. We used to communicate on there all the time because we lived in different cities. In the last year, he has followed me on Twitter and Instagram, which is the most contact we've had in years, and I guess is his way of saying hi and acknowledging me now. I get that it must be so hard to be friends with people when you are married to someone super famous because you can't trust people to be real anymore, but it's kind of sad because many of us are not really starstruck or immature about it, and we were already friends for years before this. Oh well. So in short, I don't know how he is anymore because he bailed on all of us. Not me, but my 9th grade health teacher taught Fred Durst in Gastonia, NC. He would rave over Durst's success and cared about him a lot. Last time I heard of Fred Durst, he wasn't even claiming Gastonia anymore. I live in the same neighborhood that Matt Ryan grew up in, and his parents still live there and are friends. Earliest I can remember meeting him was about 10 years ago, and every time I've met him since, he's always seemed humble and compassionate to me. His backup QB on the Falcons used to be starter for the Texans. Also attended my high school. Matt Schaub, whenever he came to speak at my high school, always seemed pretty chill to me. I'm related to the pillow guy Mike Lindell of My Pillow. Not super famous, but don't tell him that. He hasn't changed much in ego, but he did get clean from drugs and became religious. I had 2 roommates in college that did theater growing up with Chris Colfer from Glee. One of them noted that Chris was always working on writing his own plays. Seeing that he pursued writing, struck by lightning. In addition to acting, it seems that those were passions since a young age. Side note, we watched the Glee premiere not knowing how big it would become. It was kind of neat to see my roommate's childhood friend realizing their dream. I have a history working with a bunch of YouTubers, and while I didn't know them before they gained a following, None of them really have an ego. For example, I worked closely with Anthony Padilla, co-founder of Smosh, for a few months, and he's honestly like the nicest, most down-to-earth guy. Family member worked for Danielle Panabaker, Killer Frost, from The Flash. She knew her way back when she was still making it in Hollywood, but was doing okay. Anyway, she's always been sweet and down to earth. I've never heard a bad thing. Not sure how big he is, but Cody McIntyre is still the same person he was when he skated with my brother. My friend's mom went to school with Eminem. They didn't talk though. Went to a junior college where Dennis Rodman attended a semester there before going on to the big league. This one professor had him in class and described him as reclusive and stayed to himself. He also said he may have been good at basketball, but did not do too well in government class. The teacher also would give extra bonus points if you sign a piece of paper and turn it in. He started that when he found out that Dennis became famous. After becoming famous, they were no longer not famous. Not sure how/if it changed them. But I went to school with Lucy Hale. I remember she was genuinely nice to everyone and we were in choir together. She could sing her ass off. Last time I saw her in person was before she went off to do the final round of American Juniors, was an American Idol spin-off with kids, and then maybe 15 years later, I saw her on the cover of some magazine while standing online at the grocery store. Took me a moment to realize what I was looking at and why she looked familiar. Granted, at that point in time at least she looked exactly the same. Only other thing I remember other than her being able to sing and being nice to everyone was that she absolutely hated going by her first name. Lucy is actually her middle name. Edit. Thought of someone else. One of math teachers was Sylvester Spahn and was in the original movie version of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. He was a super chill teacher, very nice and patient. He talked about it at some point and mentioned from time to time it's still shown on some TV stations and he still gets a royalty check when they do. Friends with a quasi-famous dude. He went from never having a date to really beautiful women asking him out. It was surreal for him. And funny to watch. Still the same dude. Went to basic training with Bo Bergdahl and Bradley/Chelsea. Manning made my ID card prior to deploying to Iraq. Don't remember much about Manning, except he was a very odd, timid guy and Bo was a strange char to say the least in basic. I remember one time, out of the blue, he came up to a group of us while we were in a circle talking and randomly informed us he had the inside of his eyelids tattooed, then just looked each of us in the eye and walked away without saying anything else. Guy was an oddball. I was a camp counselor with a guy who later got big on Vine and is now doing alright on YouTube with 600k subs. He was always super outgoing and happy and that's exactly what he's like in his videos, just a dude who loves to laugh. I last talked to him when Vine was big and he had a much larger following, but he was super happy to talk to me and it was great to talk to him and congratulate him on what he was doing. Wasn't a friend of hers because she was a huge asshole, but I went to public school with Emily Van Camp. Dunno what she's like now, but she must be doing well to get into Cap America movies. Makes me laugh though because she was such a dickhead because we were nerds. I went to primary school with Vicky from Geordie Shore. She was a lot less orange, got quite good grades and went by Victoria. Friend of mine's mom went to high school with Brian Quinn of Impractical Jokers fame. He's mostly the same.